people understand, it didn't make me hypersexual. It's not an aphrodisiac. It simply brought back my desire. I felt more confident and alive. I think alive is really the best way.
Estamos en Nashville, una ciudad de 600.000 habitantes. Vamos camino a la casa de Amanda y estamos sorprendidos porque desde que llegamos a Nashville, la gente se asombra cuando les contamos el motivo por el que vinimos. Porque Nashville, además de ser considerada la ciudad de la música country, es un lugar muy religioso. Dicen que acá, en cada esquina, hay una iglesia. Bueno, pero en este lugar se presenta el Viagra femenino.
The first of its kind. Until yesterday, there's never been an FDA-approved drug for women or men that targets decreased libido.
Hi. Fine. Nice to meet you.
You know, when I had 4 children under the age of 8, I certainly didn't have any desire to have sex. When my father got ill and subsequently died, I didn't want to have sex. The difference is, after those events passed, the desire came back. And so this time it did not come back, and there was nothing to account for it. When the light switch turned out, at first I didn't know quite sure what was going on. I noticed a difference. I realized that I was becoming one of those women who would try to be asleep before her husband came home, or try to avoid any sexual contact. I was ashamed, I was embarrassed and frustrated, so I suffered in silence. What I did not know until later was that my husband was suffering as well. So we were both suffering and not talking about it. We were at a critical point in our relationship. I was afraid that we were going to come to an end if something didn't change. And it wasn't until I stumbled upon the clinical trial that I actually learned what HSDD was and realized that it was an actual medical problem and something that maybe could be fixed.
What changed in your life?
Well, when I went home and told Ben about the clinical trial, there was a mixture of elation and a little bit of hurt pride. Because it's hard for anybody to have a conversation that says, you know, I love you, I'm attracted to you, but I don't want to have sex with you. So we both went into the clinical trial with our eyes wide open and with high expectations. And to our surprise, within a couple of weeks, the drug started working. And as quickly as that light switch turned off, it got flipped back on.
The FDA is finally giving the go-ahead to the first prescription medication for women's sexual dysfunction.
Amanda, what did you feel in your body?
When I took Addie, mostly what I felt was the desire coming back in my head. But at the same time, the more desire I had in my head, it made my arousal in my body even more intense. So it made the whole experience more intimate, made my body react differently, and it just made everything work together.
Mujer audaz, sexy y una atrevida en su género viniendo de una sociedad tan religiosa. Ella no tiene problema de gritar a los 4 vientos que quiere disfrutar del sexo con su marido. Por eso se anotó para las pruebas entre 11.000 mujeres de todo el mundo y solamente 2 se animaron a contarlo públicamente.
Amanda, do people stop you to talk?
You know, it's funny, they do stop me all over the country when we're traveling at home, and I'm never quite sure if they've seen me on TV or if they've read about my story, or, you know, sometimes they just simply know me and are trying to catch up on what's going on, but it's been very interesting. Most of it is curiosity. I think some of them have seen me, you know, on a news piece or read about my story, and so they're very curious, but they don't really want to talk about it out loud. So they'll say, "You look familiar, do I know you from somewhere?" And then I sort of ease into my story and surmise that that's where they found me.
Some memories never end. Some tears will never.
It's not always women. Frequently, it's the man or the husband that will come to me and say, I would like for you to talk to my wife about what you're talking about. So it's actually, I think, pretty split even between men and women that actually talk to me. And I think the husbands are as concerned and as bothered by it as the women are. And often the women are too embarrassed. It's okay for men to talk about sex and enjoy it and want to have their sex drive. But for us, particularly in Tennessee, we're in the Deep South and we're a very religious stronghold, Southern Baptist. You just don't talk about it, let alone enjoy it. I was basically raised being taught that sex was for procreation, not recreation.
Do you consider yourself religious?
I do. I'm still a member of the Southern Baptist Church.
And how did your church treat you?
My church hasn't treated me any differently, for a few reasons. Number one, I don't talk about it actively at church. But those members of the church who know me and know Ben and I and know our story and have followed us through the media tend to contact me via email or text message or call. So it's talked about, it's just talked about in secret. So come this way. This is our bedroom.
It's a beautiful bedroom.
It is beautiful. We spend a
it
lot of
TV?
time in here. This is our TV.
What do you watch here?
We watch the usual news, CNN, MSNBC, and then we watch an occasional adult movie. So the interesting thing about HSDD is having both come from failed first marriages, Ben and I were very open to talk about everything. We talked about emotional issues, we talked about child rearing, we talked about our jobs. We were very connected emotionally. And I don't really know why we didn't talk about sex, other than because the first 2 or 3 years of our relationship, there was no problem with sex. This is where we talk every night. We have our wine and our beer, and we sit in the bathtub.
With the pill, are you more hungry than before?
No. When I took flibanserin, I didn't experience any side effects. Definitely, I did not have an increase in hunger. I didn't eat more. I didn't gain weight. I didn't...
Depressed?
No, I didn't get depressed. I did not experience any side effects whatsoever.
Twice the regulating body had rejected the drug. The turnaround comes after an advisory panel recommended approval under strict conditions.
It's a great water fountain. I believe the clinical trials for flibanserin in total lasted about 5 years. I was on it for about 9 months. And I was on it right up until the day when the FDA said no the first time. And it literally ended. They called me, told me to bring my pills back, bring my diary back, that it was over with. And we'll never forget that day. When I was at the FDA speaking to them, I had sex therapists literally telling me that all I needed was a bottle of wine or a bar of chocolate or a nice beach in Tahiti, or for my husband to treat me better. And the truth of the matter is, my husband treats me like a princess. And there's not enough wine and not enough chocolate to make my desire come back. We try very hard to keep our sex life active, and for the sake of our marriage, and because I know it's something that's important to him, and because, quite honestly, I love being close to him intimately. I love feeling close to him.
Yesterday, science won, and so too did women. Finally, women have the ability to make the choice.
I did, however, visit my doctor just this morning and got a prescription for Addie, and it will be commercially available on October 17th. So you can bet that either me or my husband will be at the pharmacy getting our prescription filled. I'm only 52. I plan on living a long time, and I can't imagine what that life would be like if Ben and I did not have an intimate connection anymore, if we just accepted the fact that we were going to be non-sexual. And I can't imagine what life would be like.